All right. Well, everybody, welcome to Energized Living Today. I'm Cindy, and Andrew is my cohort tonight. He is my co-host, and let me make you co-host. Let's see here. Yep. He is my co-host, and so he'll be fielding the questions here today. Ferris is still not feeling well. He did not get his test back today. So they said there's a backlog, as there is everywhere. So it could be anywhere, as they said, from another 48 hours to 2 weeks. This
oh my God.
whole system is just nutty. And I talk to my friends around the world, and they're saying, what's going on in the United States? It's like so backwards. We always thought you guys were on top of stuff, but you're making us look good.
Once upon a time.
Yeah. So go figure. I said, I'm not.
Well, I was talking to my mom in Switzerland earlier today, and she said that they're looking at starting to transition to see about possibly beginning of May, getting stuff slowly integrated. I mean, right now they're allowing the seniors to do shopping, I think, till 10 o'clock in the morning once a week.
Yeah.
Because slowly it's going down with people that have been tested or that have died, and it's getting better. So we'll see how it goes. I mean,
I thought it was really interesting. You're talking about death here. And today I've got this calendar. It's The Untethered Souls. Anybody familiar with the book?
Mm-hmm.
The Untethered Soul. It's great. And today it says, death is a part of living. One of the best teachers in all of life turns out to be death. And I just thought, whoa, is that a topic? Because I had a whole bunch of plans, trying to plan things today, and I've been getting downloads, everybody, like you wouldn't believe. And Ferris has been getting a lot of downloads recently. And we're going to start either a podcast or a blog or a vlog, and start posting these things there that are very specifically about what we are getting. And the reason we want to do it in this format is because here we want interaction with everybody. We want a back and forth conversation. There we want to just get out the messages that we're getting, and then people can comment. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're thinking we might do. And we'll probably, I own the website or the URL, the Soul View, which is the show we used to do. And that really feels like what this is. It's all about the soul view. And, I would love to know what you think about this statement. Let's just start there. What have you learned from death? Anybody want to just raise your hand, or raise the hand over to the side, and then Andrew's going to click on it.
hey, Bernadette, put up her hand.
Okay, Bernadette.
Once you believe in reincarnation, most people aren't. I've done a lot of research, reading the books by, what was her name that I said? Hold on, let me look for it.
Okay.
I'm not going to find it here. Dolores Cannon. She was a past life regressionist.
Mm-hmm.
Her books are so interesting into all the wonderful things you can experience after death, that to me, I just see it like this great adventure. And, it's like, I'm enjoying my adventure here, but when I transition, I'm going to be enjoying my adventure there. So, we had to explain it to my grandson, because he's so afraid of all this death and dying. And his mom actually made it very simple for him, because he's kind of autistic. She says, Lamont, it's just a redo.
Oh, that's
and he
that's
got
cool.
that.
That's cool.
So it was like, once, you get to that point where, oh, it's okay, it's just a redo, to me, it's just an adventure, and I don't want to die today, but when it comes, I will welcome it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Who else? Richard. Can you
I'll
unmute
let you
yourself?
unmute yourself,
Okay.
Richard.
Oh, okay. I did it, I believe.
Yay.
Hi. Yes, I've had experiences with death. I've had some near-death experiences. There was a very short one in 1967. I was 17 years old, and I was in high school, and in a PE class, at the end of the spring semester, everybody was invited to swim the distance of the high school swimming pool underwater in one breath to see how far they could go, you know, and you were allowed to go as far as you wanted. If you went one length, you got an A. The school record was 4 lengths, but I thought I'd try for 3. And so I did 2 lengths underwater, one breath, and by that time my lungs are just bursting, you know, just screaming for air. And so I pushed off the wall really hard. I'd been a swimmer, you know, and I went down deep low so that I wouldn't be, you know, so tempted to just go up and get some air. And I went about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way to the end of the pool, and I got beside a guy who I didn't really care for him that much. I tried even harder to get by him, and when I did, I lost consciousness.
Whoa.
I blacked out. You know, so I was just, you know, unconscious. Well, physically, what happened? He pulled me up to get my head out of the water, although I was unconscious. But during that time, I had an experience of what some people have had before in these near-death experiences, where they see a tunnel of light. And I saw a tunnel of light. And I was going down that tunnel of light, but then what caught my attention, I could hear air bubbles into this tunnel of light, and I wonder, why is there air bubbles in the tunnel of light? Well, of course, I realized later that's my breath.
I love it.
So at that time, I experienced that very brief one. But later on, I had a more intense one where I fell down a waterfall. They said about 30 feet, and I landed on a boulder. It was dry. I had choice to 2 different ways to go, and the one where I could see where I would be going was a pool of water a long ways down, and I didn't know if it was shallow or not, and if it was, I could end up with 1 or 2 broken ankles. So I chose to go the way I didn't know where I was going.
Wow.
Well, that was the way towards landing on a boulder, and it. I braced myself the best I could. I put my strong side of my face, you know, towards the boulder as it approached, and I cracked my skull in 4 different places. And of course, I was knocked unconscious, and people later said I fell another 30 feet, but then I just fell into a pool of water. But there was an off-duty fireman that was there at the time this happened, and he was just on vacation. And he came up and he pulled my head out of the water, gave me artificial respiration. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
Wow.
But
well, I am so glad that you're still with us on this side, though we could be talking to you on the other side.
Yeah, and then what during that experience, what I really had the near-death experience was when I was in an ambulance heading back into town and trying to stay awake, and I was looking up at the ceiling of the ambulance where there's huge letters said no smoking and oxygen in use. And so just using that as something to look at, I chose to stay in my body. But I realized if I didn't do something to stay in this body, I would go on and I would still continue. I wouldn't just be gone. I would just be going on without my body. So that was an eye-opening experience.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. You know, and I think we're always afraid of the unknown. And I think once you have died or had a near death, it just makes you feel peaceful about it. It doesn't, it's not such a big deal. I've always explained it to people. It's like just going, you know, you're in your body over here, and then you just take one little side step and your spirit. And that's what I felt when I died. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome.
Hey, Bonnie?
Yes, I've recently, within the last 4 years, I've lost my father, my brother, and my mother. And what I've learned is that what they are when they're alive is completed, or is better known once they're gone, because you don't realize the family seemed not to realize exactly the roles that they were playing, and the place that their own character actually played in those roles while they were here. So now that they're gone, it's much easier for me anyway, to see just what they were doing, just what they were doing, what they were trying to do, what they really did for the family. And so I've recently heard that the other side, beings on the other side, kind of see a lifetime as from birth to birth, and not from birth to death, like we do here. And that sounds much better to me. That's because of my experience with these 3 close people people close to me who died. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting, Bonnie. I can sense life, and I've always been able to sense life. And a pregnant woman will be standing next to me or something, and I'll just say, "Oh, when'd your little girl do?" Or "When'd your little boy do?" Or, you know, and they're like, "How did you know I was pregnant?" And she's barely showing. Or, you know, my neighbor, when her daughter was pregnant, I saw her out in the garden, and I just yelled out to her, "Hey, congratulations, Grandma, another little girl, huh?" She said, "Oh no, Melissa doesn't want to have another baby for years." And I went like this, you know. And then about 2 weeks later, she came over and she said, "How did you know? How did you know?" And I said, I just do. But I never knew that I could sense death, because death and life feel the same. They feel exactly the same to me, except for when it comes to my family. It's like when my mom died, I felt all these emotions, but I couldn't identify that it was her. When my aunt died, I got on the airplane after seeing my Aunt Jean, got on the airplane, and I wrote on a piece of paper, "Somebody's about to die. I think it's my brother Greg." And his son had been killed in a car wreck, his 19-year-old son, the year before, and he went just downhill. And I thought he was going to try and commit suicide. So that's where it was like I was misdirected. And then the very next day I got a call saying that Jean had died. And last thing I said to her is, you know, she said, "You are such a great woman, Cindy." And I said, "That's because I'm like my Aunt Jean." And that was the last thing I got to say to her. And I just think it's interesting, even with my dad, I knew that somebody was going to die, but I couldn't identify it as him, because it feels like birth. So I've got some work to do around like that. Do we have any other people here that are mediums? Let me see. Let me look at hands here. Nobody? Okay. Yeah, I get this. It's weird. I've been downloading stuff all day. It's been pretty fascinating day, and really some heavy duty insights, which I'll share if it feels right. But it'll probably be another day because I'm still getting information. By the way, the reason I haven't done the videos for Facebook, and I've been meaning to say this, I've had so many downloads, I didn't realize they were incomplete. So I have to wait until they're complete. And I've been meaning to tell you guys that, and I got more today, and I'm just like, oh wow. In fact, when Susie got a hold of me today, I said, I got to tell you this, and you have some insight to add to this that I don't know, but you will know. And so I'm going to give it to you, and then you just think about it. And she was just blown away. She was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Let this complete. It's not complete. And so she confirmed that it was not complete, and that's what I was getting. So, and getting a lot of people from the other side chatting at me, a whole bunch of people from the other side from this virus. And I think that's pretty interesting too. And she suggested that all of you start talking to the people that have passed during this. Ask them, you know, why did you decide to do this? Did you decide? What was your reason? You know, to just
You mean the
whatever
people
question.
are you saying the people that died of the virus?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Because my downloads today were specifically about the virus. And she said, just tell everybody, just feel into that. What does it feel like for you? Start asking questions, you know, what can I learn? Because we can learn so much from people who have made that transition. My dad, you know, my mom, my aunt, all three of them, because I was conscious at that time. I've already had 2 near deaths. So, you know, it's like I can see better. The veil is thinner, if that makes any sense. So I just get a lot of information. Yeah, Rami?
Oh, I was just going to mention that somebody filled in the chat, and it sounded like maybe they had some communication experiences.
Okay, let's see.
I got that, Karen. It's
Okay.
Marsha. She says,
Thank
having people die and being on the other side got me to learn how to communicate with them. The result was that I lost all my fear of the afterlife. She also says, I am partly a medium. I see and hear people for my own discussions and very occasionally see and hear people for someone else.
Beautiful. And
Yeah.
you know, what Susie said the other day is so important. Don't leave yourself wide open. I used to, and it'll drive you freaking crazy. It'll drive you crazy. So make sure you close yourself off. And I've had to learn to do that. She's been really a good teacher in that regard. Karen?
No, I just shared what I.
Okay. I didn't know if there was anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
But I wouldn't mind.
Man, you have
I
a
had
lot of power.
Yeah, I had experience with experiencing when someone was passing over, and it was the first time. It was my aunt who died back in 2014. I was actually I was living in Switzerland, flying over to come be with her in St. Louis at the hospital, and for some reason, during the flight at the very beginning, I was watching something, and all of a sudden, I got turned off from watching what I was watching on the plane. It just turned. It was like I don't want to watch this anymore because something just felt really off, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then when I got to the to Newark Airport to change planes, then I saw the message that my aunt had passed away, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like it was the spirit trying to tell, like my aunt trying to give me a message spiritually that she was leaving her body or something. And it was just amazing. I actually felt something that powerful. I mean, because her and I had a really strong connection, and she knew, like she told me before I booked my flight, saying, you know, come for yourself, don't come for me. Even though I came, it was like she sort of knew a month before that she was ready to pass on.
Wow.
But it's just amazing how powerful our intuition and our connection with the spirit can be, and 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 even when it comes to going in the unknown. I mean, in everyday life, we live in the unknown. So why are we so afraid to live in the unknown when it comes to death? Because once we die, we die. We won't even. It won't even. It's something that
We'll just shed a body. And
Yeah.
I think it's real interesting that this guy shows up. This is Nickel. He's my very sensitive one. At Dad's celebration of life, he was the first one on the table and went right up to the camera, and he looks right in. And for those of you who've been with me for a long time, you know that when we start talking about this stuff, he always shows up. He is very spiritual. Did you see that? Yep, he
He's
just
so
shows
cute.
up and
Bernadette just said that she's had family spirits visit when they leave. So
well, he is reincarnated, and he was a dog in his previous life. He said, "Sorry about that, folks," but he had all kinds of messages when he first came. Very smart, but nobody else ever sees him except for you guys because he's very shy. He doesn't like anybody, no neighbors or anybody to see him. So you guys have the privilege of seeing him. Okay, who else had their hand up? Yes, go ahead and unmute.
Okay. All right. Hi. I'm Raimi. Good evening.
It's Raimi. I think I said.
Yeah, Raimi. Like Do Raimi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I trained at an ashram for 6 weeks and to be a yoga teacher. And all the time I was there, they kept saying, "You're not your body. You're not your mind." And I kept thinking, well, who am I then? I just didn't get it. And then now it's been 2 decades, and I realized that we are infinite beings that decided to come to experience a human life. And we will go on and continue as spirit, and if we choose to come again, it's our choice. So I'm glad I finally got that. I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, I'm a beautiful, infinite being that chose to come to experience. And then I had the pleasure of being at my aunt's bedside when she passed. And when I walked into the room, the young man said, "Who are you?" And I told him, and he said, "Well, I'm a hospice, and we never let anyone die alone." And I said, "Well, that's good." I said, "But you can leave because you're just on your computer." And he wasn't paying attention to my aunt at all. So he left. And I just got this, I just start singing to her. I just start telling her what a fantastic, beautiful soul she was. I brushed her hair, and I was talking to her, and I said, "Aunt Margaret, I'm going to leave right now because I have to go teach a yoga class, but I'll be back." And I know, if you knew my Aunt Margaret, I know she probably said, "Why bother coming back?" And I saw her take her last breath, and it was the most beautiful thing I ever witnessed in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, because she inhaled and there was no exhale.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So thanks for letting me share.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. I'm envisioning that
Yeah,
and relating it to when we saw my dad just right after he passed. And, his favorite, nobody could be in there, and his favorite attendant had put him in bed. She just turned around, took his teeth out to soak them, and was tucking in his blankets. Turned back around, he's gone. It was so fast.
Quick, yeah. Just the way she would want it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who else? Do we have anybody else's hands up?
No, I don't see anyone. If you,
Oh, Mary?
no.
It's interesting because when my mom passed away, I was in DC and she was in South Dakota, of course, and I knew that she had been on the verge for quite a while. I knew she really wanted to go, but being in the situation, I couldn't really talk to her. When I would call, it seemed like we could never connect, and they were always doing something when she was in a nursing home at that point. So I asked my brother, I said, I know right now that my mother is going to leave today or soon. And I said, whatever you do, get the phone up to her ear so that I can talk to her. And he says, I'll do the best I can. Short story, he did. They were wheeling her from one room to another for some test or whatever. And he put the phone up to her ear and she said, "Oh, Mary, it's so nice to hear from you." As if we were in the same room, as if she was, young and vibrant. And then she went on for about maybe a minute and had a little chat with me. And she goes, "I'll see you soon." And then click. And I got the news, later that day that she had passed. But until I got home the next day to see her, she was still very much hanging on. And when I walked into the room, I went to her and I said, "Well, I have a message from your brother who she had raised from." And I said, I called him to tell you, called him to tell him what was going on. And he said, "Well, you tell her this, 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 and this." And I said, "Mom, if you can hear me," and I knew she could, but I said, "If you can hear me, just squeeze my hand." And my dad was sitting there like staring at us like I was nuts. And Mom did a very strong squeeze. And that's when my dad finally realized and accepted, but it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever experienced in my life. To know that she absolutely was there, always is there. And that, it was just a beautiful experience. So they hear you also, and that's what I said while we were standing around the bed. I said, "Well, be careful what you say, because she hears it all. So if you have anything you want to say, tell her how much you love her, whatever." But it was such a great experience to hear her voice come in as if she were young and vibrant, which is exactly what she was as she transitioned. So yeah. Thank you for letting me share.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I remember Dorothy. Does anybody remember Dorothy? She was 90. And Anne, I'm thinking, would be the one probably that remembers her. I think she was like 93. And she was, I think, our oldest listener. For years, she had listened. And one night after a show, I heard out loud, I'm clairaudient, so I hear it out loud, "Call Dorothy." Does anybody remember this when it happened? And I said, call Dorothy? And I thought it was weird. And I'm like, Ferris? I called Ferris. We had to hunt for her number. And I said, I'm supposed to call her. And I was in the middle of doing the write-up after the call. And I said, well, I'll call in a little bit. And I heard, "No, call Dorothy now." So I got Ferris to start looking for her number, and we finally found the number. I called there, and her daughter was kind of whispering and said, "I'm sorry, you're too late. She's not going to be here very long. She's in a, just out of it, in a coma, whatever. And she's not going to you know, you're not gonna be able to talk to her. If you'd have called last night, she would have been able to talk to you, but tonight she can't. And I said, please just put the phone up to her ear. So she put the phone up to her ear, and I said, Dorothy, this is Cindy Kabika, and I want you to know how much I love you. And she said, Cindy, she said, I love you. And I said, and Ferris loves you too. And she said, Ferris, I love Ferris. And she started jabbering on about how much she loved the show and all the people and how she could feel their souls. And she just felt, you know, so connected, and that we were a family, and she thanked us. And after I got done talking to her, daughter got back on the phone and said, I cannot even believe that. I can't even believe that happened. And I said, well, she called out to me. Her oversoul called out to me. And so I just called, and she said, she was totally stunned. And then the next morning she called and said she passed in the night. And so she was very connected to this community, y'all. And it just blew me away. She was just right there, and she was a conscious being, and she was so filled with love for our community. And she wanted to have an opportunity to say goodbye, you know, or see you soon. Okay, Richard.
When that last near-death experience I told you about, when I fell down the waterfall, that was in 1970. And during that decade, I had a lot of different experiences. And some of them include, you know, spirits that had passed on. So I could tell you a whole lot of different experiences, but I'll try to keep it short. There was a couple that I knew back during that time. We were good friends, and their son, they had a 4-year-old son who got a rare kind of hepatitis, and he got very sick. At that time, I don't think they knew about hepatitis C yet. Maybe that's what it was, but anyway, he was very sick, and he did die, you know. And so we had a memorial service for him and everything. Then after the service, we went to the mother's house. Now, my two adult friends at that time, they were married, but at that time they were not living together. So we all went to the house and had a memorial gathering for the young boy, you know, with food and people were singing and everything. And I was just sitting on the floor with, you know, a little plate of food sitting next to my friend's sister. And all of a sudden, there was a boy right in the middle of the whole group. I see his spirit, you know.
Wow. Wow.
And you know, I felt like reaching over and say, hey, there he is. You know? But of course, she wouldn't see him, and she might freak out, so I didn't say anything. But he was so happy. He was just very happy to know that we were there for him. Well, then later on, after my male friend, he died 3 weeks later, the same thing. And sometime after that, I went back to the house and I talked to my female friend about things. And at that time, she said, that place where I saw the young boy, that was his favorite place in the whole house.
Wow. Anne has her hand up. Thank you, Richard.
Sure.
I love hearing this. Thank you all for sharing.
I spent time with my mother in hospice. It took her a month. She kept saying 40 days and 40 nights. And you know, she was on a Comcord pump to empty her stomach because she couldn't eat, and she finally gave up liquids. And anyway, I was there, and I remember my last kiss to her, and she wasn't kissing me.
Well,
So I figure it was probably my father that she was. It was definitely not a kiss to me. So I knew that the spirits from the other side were there. And by now, I don't believe in death. I don't think there is any death. You know, we just change shapes, or not even shapes. You know, the spirit goes on forever. So, I mean, so what's the point of suicide?
When exactly. You know, and right after my dad passed, the first thing I saw when he came to me was Tiny Tim, when Scrooge was shaking his leg, saying, "How's your leg?" to Tiny Tim. Does anybody remember that scene where he was shaking his leg? Well, my dad was just kind of shaking my leg like he was Tiny Tim, and he had a leg there, and he had that leg amputated. So it's interesting to me when I hear you say that it was your dad, because
I
that
don't know that it was my dad, but
you felt like it was.
definitely wasn't me. It was a romantic kiss.
Oh, it was
You know, it was a kiss like you would give a lover.
oh.
Yeah. So it was, and I know that she had a feeling, a connection for him. She had remarried, but her heart was still with him.
Okay, now I understand.
Okay, yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
So at that point, I believed people from the other side came, you know, to help her transist.
Mm-hmm.
And she was so cute too. She said, "When you're having my memorial service in the church, wave, because I'll be flying by." So yeah, it was a positive experience.
That's great. That's great. Okay, anybody else?
Divana came in late, and she said that she had a temperature that went up to 101.4 Saturday. Was feeling better Sunday and back to normal Monday. Not sure what I had. Wasn't the usual symptoms. Could have been because of all the immune boosting things I have been doing, helped push it out faster with fewer symptoms. So she was just updating us on her health. Good to hear, Divana. But I wanted to
one way
say
you
something.
can have a positive for coronavirus, y'all, is to and when I was at the hospital yesterday, they had told me this. They said they had so many people like me where we tested for flu, no flu. Did all the blood tests, nothing showed up. Nothing showed up because we've never seen this before. And they said that's how we know when somebody's had corona. So if you've had a test, Devana, then and it was negative, that's probably what it was, and you had a more mild case of it, and you knew how to honor your body. And I think that makes a huge difference.
Well, I'm going to share something. In '95, I was living in Switzerland, and my grandmother at that time, she was going between Switzerland and St. Louis, and she was in St. Louis when she had a stroke. She wasn't doing so well after her stroke. I called her the day before she passed away, but she couldn't talk to me, but she could hear me. And it was just, it's just so nice when you're able to reach out to a person and let them know that you're there and you're thinking about them. And it's just, talking about passings and it's just, it's so touching just to hear the different stories that people have about their experience. And so if there's any more people that would like to share and open up, please do. Come on. This is what we're here for. It's about connecting, or share something else.
Anne had her hand up, but Anne, did you have something else that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I got a text. I just had to go.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what it was now, but it's about my tenant. The good news is my tenant in California is leaving, and another person's going to look at the room Sunday. So that was something I really wanted to know.
Oh.
Well, if it comes back, I'll raise my hand again. It was something.
Okay.
Oh, I know. I was going to give you an update on my niece.
Oh, yes. How was your niece?
I got an email from my sister. saying that she is feeling a little better, has actually cooked a little bit. They're eating a lot of cereal now, and her dad is delivering groceries to the garage. My nephew, it was the stomach flu he's got, and he's not feeling any better. So that's the update. And so far, so good. The twins are okay, but the daughter has been in the hospital many times with breathing problems. They have a rare genetic disease that comes from 2 recessive genes from the parents. Anyway, they will die early anyway, and she's in a wheelchair and worse, and he doesn't walk well. So, they're really at risk. So I'm glad that she's feeling better. And whether she got a test or not, I don't know. They're both paramedics.
Mm.
So, or she was before she had to stay home and take care of the kids. So it's anyway, I appreciate all your healing energy, and just want to keep you up to date.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anne.
Thank you all for your prayers, and I put out prayer to a lot of different prayer groups. So hopefully that's about all we can do, I think.
Well, I want to ask everybody right now to, we've got a lot of people that we know that are sick, a lot of people that are around the world. And I just want to hold some space for them now. And let's just take a moment of silence and send them our love and healing light, and keep them welcomed on this side if that's what they want. Mm. Mm. I just saw Raphael, Archangel Raphael is with them. Do they know Raphael? Do they know the angels? Anne? I can't hear you.
Okay, I didn't get you were addressing me. I don't know that they're Catholics, so I would think they're more in.
But the angels, the archangels are just spiritual beings.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send that to my sister.
Yeah, just call in Archangel Raphael because he's the healing angel.
Okay, yeah.
That's your angel medic.
Okay, yeah, I will do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We got Rami and Bernadette.
Okay.
One.
When my husband had his hip replaced, I sent him, of course, Reiki, because I'm a Reiki master. But there's a network online, it's dhn.org, and there's healers from all over the world, and it's free, dhn.org. You put your person who you want to have these healers all over the world pray for them and send them energy. So if that speaks to anyone, please check it out. It helped. I had people from all over the world, Australia, Italy. I mean, it was just phenomenal, the energy he received.
Thank you. I'm not familiar with them. That's great.
I'm sorry?
Group of 8 is also another good resource.
Right.
What is it?
Lynn.
Power of 8.
Yeah, the Power of 8.
Oh, okay, yes. When my dad was going to pass last year. As many of you know, he's been trying to get out of here for a long time. Keeps going halfway over the bridge and coming right back. And last year, all the family had come in. It was not last year, the year before that, 2018, the end of 2018. And they had called all the family in, hospice in, and they said, you know, he wasn't going to be here in the morning. And he had, his breathing was pretty poor, intermittent breathing. And then all of a sudden he just kind of woke up, and we were in his room, which was dark. And he said, "What's that light?" He kept poking, pointing and saying, "What's that light? What's that?" And he went, "Oh, Grandpa, I haven't seen you since I was 8. You left me. You left me. Why did you leave me? I needed you so much. Did you hear me when I was talking to you?" And he would just look up at this light, and then he'd say, "Mom," meaning our mom, "Mom, Mom, oh my gosh." And he pointed to this box of Kleenexes, and he said, "Make me some of those to take your mom." And I said, "Some of what?" And I looked at the Kleenex box and I said, "Oh, Kleenex roses." So my sister and I started making Kleenex roses real quick. And he said, "I need a dozen." And we made about 8. And he said, "Oh, that'll be enough." And we put them all in front of him, and he just kind of relaxed back and just kind of fell out. And he was just so happy that he was going to be able to take these roses to my mom. And then he started the intermittent breathing and wheezing, and the hospice nurse came in and said, "You know, I don't think he'll pass. If you guys are here, you're just too close." And so I think it would be good if you went home. It was pretty late, like midnight, 1 o'clock. And I was leaving with my sister Jerry. We were the last 2 there. And I told her to go on ahead, and I stopped and walked back in there and started talking to his oversoul. And I called all of his energy back to him. And I said, "Dad, you always said that you wanted to be there when you died. So I'd like to make sure I call all your energy back to you. And I'm going to call all my energy back to me, because I want to leave here with all of my energy too." And if you've ever been in a nursing home, you know you feel completely depleted. You feel so tired when you leave there. It's because people feel your life force. And so I just called all his energy back to him. I called mine to me. And I said, I just said, "Dad, I love you." And I left. And the next morning we got back there, and he's sitting up, and the nurses are going, "What?" His oxygen level was like 60 something, and intermittent breathing, everything. And they just said they couldn't believe it. And then they said, "But it could be the death arousal. Is that what you call it? Something like that." And they said, "So this could be a temporary thing. We just want you to know that." And we expected that. Of course, he lived almost a year and a half past that. So I don't know if it's because his oversoul could sense his children there. I don't know what it was, why he decided to stay here. He just had more to do. And that's when I pray, I always say, if you want to stay, then I would like to call you back in complete health, and so you can stay here as long as you are on this journey till your journey is complete. Does that feel okay to you guys? Because that's what I was doing that day. I felt, and I said that the last time with Dad too. How do you feel about that? Anybody? Bernadette has her hand up. I don't know. That might be from before.
Well, I can answer that. I think that sounds good to me. Everybody always has free will, so you can do something with a good intention, and the rest is up to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what I feel about that. Yesterday when I was doing that worldwide channeling with Cryon, a few days ago, I had turned on the TV and I had seen a doctor being interviewed, and he was talking about how lonely it was for people to die alone. their family can't be there. They're not allowed in the hospital. And my heart got so heavy. And, you know, it's like after that, I just felt like I was so drained, and I sat down and I started meditating, and I started sending my energy out to all these people who were dying and transitioning, and just sending them love and comfort, and just the feeling that somebody was with them, that they were taken care of and they were not alone. Because he said that was one of the most loneliest things. And then when Crown was talking about all the people who had passed, he wasn't so much talking about the people who had passed, but he was talking about the family that had been left behind. And he was almost in tears, you know, because of all this hurt that's in the world right now. And I know a lot of times we have to be broken down to have our breakthrough. Mm-hmm. But it was just, again, I was starting to get that heavy feeling. And so, you know, I've just been, you know, when I think about it every day, I've been sitting and just sending strength and peace and calm and, you know, just love, you know, kind of seeing Archangel Michael's wings just wrap around the person and just hold them, because right now there's so much hurt with all this death. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I've just wanted to share with everybody that we are very powerful and one person can make a difference. So if we can each find in our hearts to do what moves us, then that's us fulfilling our purpose on what we're supposed to do. When we were talking about death, for me, every time somebody dies, I see it. I feel the energy or the spirit of the person right next to me, and I say thank you and goodbye. My mother, when she came to me, she was kind of like my nemesis in this life. Me and her didn't get along, and I mean, there was 9 of us, and when I walked in the room right away, she started picking on me, and the brothers would all say, "Berna's here." But when she came to me, the first time she came, I wasn't ready to speak to her. And so I asked her nicely to leave. I wasn't ready. And then about 2 weeks later, I felt her again. And for me, she felt like cold, cold, cold against my right arm. But I knew it was her. And I told her, I was like, okay, what do you want? And all of a sudden, I felt like this heart emergence is the only way I can describe it, where there was no more animosity between us, and there was just this love. And it was funny because after that, the next day I got up and I started making tortillas and bread and cinnamon rolls. And my mother was a great cook, and that was like all her specialty stuff. So everything she used to make, all of a sudden I was baking all these things. And Mike's like, what got into you? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I think the spirit of my mom is moving me. So,
I love it.
You know, since then I've actually like loved cooking. But it was, you know, there's just
worked on a skill.
Yeah.
I think that can be done. I think that can be definitely paid forward. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I just thought that was interesting. I wanted to share. That's it.
Oh, thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Divana said Unity Church has a free prayer line to call and pray. They pray for 1 month on the subject requested.
Okay. And that's Unity?
Yeah, Unity Church.
Okay.
Just a reminder, if anyone is in the private Facebook, please do post things in there to share with people. It's a great way to connect with everyone and to share. So whatever we're talking about, I'd ask if you can post them in there. If you're not in that, I'll just grab the link and just give me 1 second. I'll grab it for you guys.
And I'm looking at some of the comments here. Bernadette asked, when did I die? I can share that story if anybody wants to hear it. Okay, and there's Devana. Okay, and thank you for the unity, Devana. I miss y'all. I wish I could just come out and hug you. When I say energy hug, by the way, in the newsletter, I mean it. Every time we do it, I just do this and send it out to you. And I hope that you receive that. It's not just one of those blanket emails that everybody sends out. I really put some emotion into it and love in it, and I hope you can feel it.
Will somebody add Ferris to the unity line and
Yes.
the other places that we've spoken of? And let's give him an energy hug.
Yes. Yes. Let's all give him an energy hug here.
He's very special to all of us.
Yep. He's my best friend. He's not only my business partner for 27 years, he's my best friend. And my whole family thinks of him as an uncle. So, you know, he's been in our lives for a long, long time. Karen?
I came a little late. Would you mind sharing what's happening with Ferris?
Ferris, he was tested for COVID-19 yesterday. He's sick, and he was better today. When I had it, I had up and down days. And today he had an up day. But then he was hoping he'd even come on tonight. But quite frankly, I don't want anybody to see him because he really looks awful. And he's already pale. And he looks like a ghost now. And it really upset me the other night. And I saw him just before our call, you know, before we did that ceremony. And it's really upsetting. So I said, I really don't want you to come on until you look healthy. So
who's helping him and taking care of him?
We're taking stuff over and putting it on his front porch, but we're not going in there. So we are. And then tomorrow we're going over to mow the grass and, you know, help out with the lawn stuff that he can't do and just let him sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all we can do. And he took the test. He knows everything to do. You know, I've got bone broth that I'm taking to him. He tried to eat something solid, and that did not do well at all. I couldn't eat anything solid when I was sick. So I told him, it's not going to do well. And he's like, well, you were right there.
So
he hates it when I'm right.
maybe the quote, the stomach flu Michael has might be this.
Yeah, because it affects the stomach really badly. I just, everything went through me, and that never happens to me. Never, never, never. So it was, I knew something really weird was going on with my body. And Ferris, he does have that reaction a lot. So I knew that that was going to hit him hard. That's why I told him, watch what you eat. So hopefully he'll cool it. If that's what it is, we don't know yet.
Whatever it is, the bone broth should be good.
Yeah. I make bone broth, and I'm going to pick up some stuff at the farmer's market, and I've got so much lettuce and all kinds of greens to harvest. So I'm going to take him a whole bunch of that so that he can make some green smoothies, and that helped me tremendously. So we're taking good care of him while keeping our distance. Okay, anybody else? Bernadette asked about, my near death. I guess it's what you were asking. Is that what it was, Bernadette? Okay. I've actually had 3. One was self-induced. I tried to commit suicide at the age of 19. And I was in a very abusive situation and estranged from my family. And I felt like there was nothing else left. And I put my daughter in a foster home. I wrote letters to everybody. I had the most peaceful feeling of my whole life making that decision that I'm out of here. I can't do this. And I've never felt so much peace ever in my life. And I had a bunch of pills that I never took. They were always giving me stuff. I used to have, I had a head injury as a kid and had seizures for years. And so I had all this medicine, but I never took it. So I took all this phenobarbital and all this crap. And I was in a coma for, I don't know what all happened. My boyfriend ended up finding me. He did not take me to the hospital, but I was in a coma or whatever for days. And all I saw during that time was darkness. And it was like people were whispering to me in the darkness. And when I came out of that, oddly, my mom was the first one to come over, and she said, "Cindy, I think you were saying you wanted to live, not want to die." And it just did something. It just changed me. That was such a true statement. And I just didn't want to live with the pain anymore. And then when I was 21, I was given medicine, and I had injured my back at work, and given some medicine at the hospital, and I flatlined. And I remember being in my body hearing the flatline. I could just hear it, and then all of a sudden I could see it. And I was above the bed, and there was a lady next to me, and she starts screaming, no, she's young. Don't let her die. Take me. I'm diabetic. I just had my leg amputated. And she sat up on the bed, and I was watching her do this, and I could see that her, the below the knee was amputated. And she said, I'm so ready. Just take me. She doesn't need to die. She needs to stay here. And I saw all these white coats on this side of the room scurrying around my bed, but I was so focused on her love. And I felt so much love from her. And then I felt the love of God, the Christ consciousness in humanity. And I knew that it was there. And just, oh my God, I did not want to come back. I did not want to come back. And then all of a sudden I hear beep, 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 and I wake up and I'm in intensive care. They had to restart my heart. And I've never been afraid of death since. And I still, when I stop and I'm feeling unloved, I stop and I feel that woman's love. And I feel all that love that was given to me. And it was overwhelmingly beautiful love. So those were the two times. The other time was in my car wreck. And I started seeing the tunnel, and I started traveling it, and I was immediately taken back. So it wasn't really a big experience. The big experience is when I was 21. And it still fills me to this day, changed me. So that was it.
Did you ever talk to the lady again who offered herself?
No, I never knew what ever happened to her. She was an older woman. I could see that she was an older woman, and, because I could see her very clearly. And I could swear at one moment she turned and looked at me. And because I was above the curtains, just watching everything. And I could swear that she just kind of turned up and looked at me. And I just, I was in intensive care for days after that. So I really think that's what weakened my heart. I ended up having heart surgery many years after that, but I think that's what happened, was that medication. That's why I don't like medicine.
I don't either. I refuse unless I need to, like I don't take any of the flu shots anymore. I've been not taking the flu shots for like 10 years, and it's just,
I understand that, because I don't take anything. They did that, and then they gave me another medicine that paralyzed me for 3 weeks. All I had use of is to move my head like this. And I had no use of my body. And then when I started walking, I moved like a sloth. And I said after that, I don't trust medicine.
Well, I was taking medicine for, because I was diagnosed with ADHD, but all you really need to do is like exercise, nutrition, and proper sleep. That's all. I mean, apparently in Germany, they don't give their kids medication for those that are supposedly ADHD. It's not even not heard of.
There's one more thing to that. Let them express themselves creatively, because more people that they call ADHD or ADD, they are creative beings, and you are a creative being. You're a creator, and creators can't be contained, and people are trying to medicate them and put them into a box. Don't get me started.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I know, but I didn't realize that because that's a reason why you and I are connected. Is I guess I think I told you when I was 13, I tried to commit suicide, but I didn't get as far as where I blacked out, and it was because I was going through a traumatic period between school, home life being very toxic. I took this duvet. I clearly remember it. I took this duvet. It was May of 1989, and I lit a match to the duvet, and I wanted to jump in and burn myself to death.
Whoa.
But for some reason, I think it was for me, I believe it was the angels. They put the fright in me so bad that I didn't even go into the fire. I just stood there watching the flames and burned my duvet. That's what it was. And I was just, but it's not until recently that I really started to get into talking about it. And it's a topic that I'm going to be writing about because I think, as Theo on that call, they said if someone commits suicide, we think it's such a horrible thing, but it's not. We're supposed to just give them love because they're the ones that wanted to go back to the greater conscious or energy field, whatever we call it. I forgot. My mind went blank. But anyways, Divana asked, is Ferris taking extra vitamin C multiple times a day?
And I'm going to take him some more because he's almost out. I went and got the last 2. Do you know how hard it is to find that right now? It's crazy.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and I got him some Tylenol. That's another thing in our area you can't find because the curve is going to hit us next week or in the next 2 weeks, they said. So they got us on pretty big lockdown, and they have done a good job. They started off really poorly here and didn't do it. And then when the deaths started increasing, then they started really paying attention. And Dolly Parton, we've got to thank Dolly Parton, everybody, because she stepped in and she's the one that got them to move. And then Tim McGraw came in and Faith Hill. They don't live too far from me. And they're the country music folk are the ones that stepped in and said, you got to do something. And otherwise I don't know that they still would have. So yay. Thank you, Dolly. Hello, Dolly.
Yes, actually, I'll first read Bernadette wrote about Lego's work for my grandson who has ADHD. I actually know this when it comes to going back. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments that are in here to everyone. But when there's someone I know in England who I helped out with Mind, Body, Spirit, and he wrote this type of music called alpha music, and there's this music called Silence of Peace, and if you play it in the background, it's supposed to help get your brainwaves to an alpha state. So if you put like classical music on or something like that, I'm actually very fortunate that in the job when I'm actually working, I get to deal with kids with disabilities, and one of them is severely autistic, has a severe autism. She's a really lovely girl, and it's such a joy just to be around kids that have disabilities because they bring such a gift to you. I mean, it's just amazing. It's such an honor. I mean, literally last June when I was going on a shadowing, I was literally crying when I saw this girl who was severely, like she couldn't, like she could just make sounds. The thing that would get her excited we'd be listening to Queen or Elton John. So we were like playing Queen or Rocket Man in the minibus going to school. But anyways, it's just interesting. Divana said that they went on lockdown fast, and I guess it's North Carolina, NC.
Yeah,
So,
North Carolina. Yeah, that's good.
You'll
The
have to
ones that
excuse me
did.
because I'm a Canadian here, even though I'm familiar with the states because I have family in Missouri. So, but anyways,
Karen,
Karen.
did you have something else? She was raising her.
Just, I'm also from North Carolina. So,
Oh, you are? Okay.
yeah.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that everybody was. Again, it was slow here, although our community was fast because Williamson County, they kind of, it's one of the wealthiest counties that we live in here because there's a lot of country music folks here, a lot of people that are in the music business and publishing business. And I would say it seems like most of them live all around us. So there's a lot of money here, and they made things happen in Williamson County really fast. So we were lucky here, but Nashville wasn't as lucky. You know, they were slower to move in other areas of the state.
Mm-hmm.
So we were, I'm glad there's I've got rich neighbors because they made things happen. Okay, Bernadette.
I just, oh, that's so strange. I just lost it. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well,
sorry.
Anyone
I
else?
thought it was something.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Well, this has been so much fun. I hope this was an okay topic for everyone. It's not one that bothers me except for the grief. Because of how I feel about, I don't have a fear of transitioning. I don't have that fear, and I haven't since I was 21, actually since 19. It went away. But when the grief from my dad passing slammed into me, it surprised me. It really took me off guard because of how I feel, that it's just it's just stepping to the other side. He just crossed over that rainbow bridge. He's whole. And I knew all of that. And yet I don't know why I didn't think I would grieve because of that. And Anne, you're unmuted. Do you have something that you wanted to add to that?
No, but I don't know that I've ever really felt grief. I don't know that I've ever felt it now that you mention it. When my mother passed, I was just happy for her because I knew how happy she was. And when my grandmother, who was my true mother, because my mother I healed in hospice with her, she and I didn't ever have much of a connection. But I remember a tear or two when my mother died and just thinking I don't have a mother anymore. And she was really cute. She said, "You're the big bubble on the tree now." I thought that. And her sister is going to turn 100 this year. But she's not here mentally anymore, and she had to be put in a nursing home. So I don't know that it would even do any good to call her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really would like to go because I don't want to go there.
Yeah, I hope that I go before that too.
Yeah, my mom left at
We never
80.
know why we're supposed to experience these things.
Yeah, my mom died at 82, and that would be fine for me, anytime. So if you ever
How old
hear,
are you now?
I'm 78.
78. Okay, that's what I was
Ever
thinking.
since I turned 78, I've not been as happy about being here. I feel differently. I don't know how it is, but
Yeah.
Don't grieve for me if I leave. Just know I'm happy.
Well, we're going to celebrate. We'll have a celebration of
Yeah.
your life.
And I want to do like Dee Wallace talks about, just go to sleep one night and not wake up.
Yeah, that's what I want.
No illness. because I'm healthy. My body's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Okay, Bernadette?
Cindy, I remembered. There's a website called goodnews.org that
Oh, yeah,
has
yeah.
more positive stuff that I want to share with everybody. And also, I've been going on and I'm looking at the statistics, but the thing that I'm looking at is how many recoveries there are. Not so much how many people are in the hospital. And if you look at that, you realize that most of the people are recovering.
Yeah, that's why I was
like
saying the other
1 or
day,
2%.
80% of the people recover and have
It
very,
looks higher.
very few symptoms. And it's that last 20% that will have, you know, extreme cases and then, you know.
There's like 1 or 2% is death, and the
Yeah,
rest.
The
Yeah, it's great.
the problem with that statistic, by the way, is they don't know, because as they were saying in Williamson County yesterday, there were people back in November and December that they now understand had COVID-19, and many people who have passed it didn't know. So we don't have accurate numbers. And as a science girl, that's important to me. You know, science is really important to me. Numbers are really important to me. And in order for us to heal as a world, we need to have an accurate understanding of both sides.
I agree.
Because once everybody gets it, it's nothing anymore.
Right.
It's getting people through it. And then for those people who need the vaccination to be able to have that, that's what I feel. So that's all.
I was saying that, you know, people are always giving us the bad news, but there's so much good news out there that we don't hear. So, you know, if people can start hearing the good stuff, it's always nice.
Well, I think 80% is good news.
Yes, it is.
That's very good news. Yeah. So, okay.
And I keep sending love and joy to everybody, because those are the things that are, that's the medicine.
Yep, that is. Well, I thank you all for being here tonight, and I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. I just decided, you know, I don't have to plan something for every call. We can just do something random like this. Tonight will be random night. And you know, I'm one of those workaholic overachiever kind of personalities, and I'm trying not to do that. And so for me to just say, you know, just have
good night.
I don't have to be all perfect and fixed up. I can just come and love all your presence. And I thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Too fast.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Oh, I love this. Random.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Love you.
Get tomorrow. I love
Hey, Andrew.
See you in the morning. Another random call in the morning.
Bye. Thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow
Bye.
at 11 o'clock Eastern tomorrow morning.
Yes.
All righty.
Bye.